Is it a cultural thing or should I be concerned? She probably thought your wife had stopped by for a quick visit and assumed everyone was going to go in at some point. I am Asian and it's fine if they are next door neighbor and on a friendly term. Some families let their kids stay on their neighbor if they have to go out and cannot bring the kid. My guess would be that in the other person's version of the story she invited your wife and kids in. And she accepted. Sounds like a misunderstanding. It's a cultural thing. She figured the child would be safer inside while the ladies chat. I agree with others. Be generous with her and appreciate the gesture, but indicate that it's not normal to take a child into their home. I just asked my Vietnamese wife about this. She says it is perfectly normal in Vietnam. I told her it wasn't normal in the US, and was mildly surprised to find out she didn't know this. And she's been living in the US for 12 years. But this explains something that's been on the back of my mind for a long time. On my wife's first Halloween in the US, she kept wanting to invite the children into the house. And I repeatedly had to tell her that the kids have to stay outside on the porch. My wife was a school teacher in Vietnam. And she really loves kids. So I thought this was just her being herself. I didn't know this was a normal thing in Vietnam. When my husband and I were dating, we started eating at this Chinese restaurant almost every week. By the time our son was born, they were like family. The very first time we brought him in, the owner just came over, unbuckled him and said, "You eat. We will be at the bar." Okay, I guess. So that's where we went for date night until we moved away. Sounds like she's just being overly friendly. You said she had a young son also, so it makes sense that she thought it would be okay for them to play together. I definitely would have asked first though before picking up someone's kid. This is exactly why we have this sub. Glad it's cleared up. I know to Americans it's scary as hell to have your kid anywhere not in your sight. But this lady sounds perfectly friendly and safe. Vietnamese people are friendly, it's cultural thing, warm, welcoming people. Yes, Southeast Asian culture is like this. As I was growing up, kids just appear at your doorstep to play with your kids and neighbors won't be surprised if your kid shows up unannounced at their own doorstep. In leisure time like pre-dinner where most of household kitchen chorus is done, neighbors just show up and talk while kids can be playing outside, inside home with other neighborhood kids. There weren't a lot of public parks in each neighborhood in those countries, and kids of all age can be seen out mostly on streets playing with similar age group kids and adults just chatting around with like-minded people and relaxing. Given this, I assume your neighbor just wanted to chat and wanted to just kid play on side and be worry-free as kids will be inside house. A Pakistani family with 2 young kids, probably around 5 and 7, moved onto my street in NJ when I was growing up. My neighborhood was almost entirely made up of parents with kids around that age. So everyone's morning schedule was roughly the same. One morning my neighbors across the street were eating breakfast before school when the 2 new kids just kinda walked into the house and sat down at the table, ready for breakfast. Apparently, before moving to the US, the practice was pretty common for them. Neighbors would just send their kids to another house unannounced. What seemed like a presumptive intrusion turned out to be a misunderstood communal trust in your neighbor. I'm American. In some places we lived, especially suburbs and rural areas, anyone stopping by, especially kids, would be ushered inside for snacks and drinks. It would also be common that if some of us were playing outside, the older neighbors would gather us up, take us inside and feed us. Now people would lose their minds over this. Kids of mixed ages playing outside unsupervised, and Being taken into a neighbor's home to be fed without parents' permission. Your neighbor was just being polite and friendly. It's a cultural misunderstanding. But by today's standards, I can see why it concerned or shocked your wife. I know this has been resolved already. But this sounds just like something one of my best friends would do. She's Vietnamese. I could see and hear her as I read this. Tears of joy. I don't know about the Vietnamese. But I lived in Turkey for years and this would absolutely be normal there. I was out on a walk with my then 9-month-old. We stopped at a cafe, bakery where my husband's friend worked. It was my first time meeting him or any of them. One of the older ladies asked if she could hold my baby. I said fine. I passed my daughter to her and she proceeded to just walk off into the back of the shop. I got up after her. And she just said, "No, it's fine. I will take the baby. She can play in the kitchen with us and the other children while you relax." Lol, I had to send my husband in after her to claim our baby back. I feel like this is part of the tragedy of modern American life. We don't trust one another or even get to know one another. This is especially true for white Americans. We've been programmed not to trust one another. As a 45-year-old man, I feel incredibly uncomfortable around children because people tend to assume the worst of me even if I'm just minding my own business. I've lived in several places over the last 20 years and found that while living in a predominantly black neighborhood or in another country, people were not so afraid of me and initiated conversation. The only time I got to know my neighbors well was when I lived in a part of town that people considered sketch or dangerous. Everyone got to know everyone there because they had to, in order to watch out for each other. Is it a cultural thing in ASEAN cultures? It's more like the US. I'm assuming that's where you're from. Is weirdly paranoid about children. As in there's been a few diplomatic incidents because of tourists being arrested for not being paranoid enough. I don't know what I was doing when I was 3. But I got a knife for my 4th birthday and then went off to go hunting. Throwing rocks at pheasants. With my mom's friend's slightly older than me son. And I was the kid that never seemed to do anything interesting. Edit to add. I'm not Asian. Lol, in my place it is common to help carry a stranger's baby for a while. And also to baby talk to them when their parents are around. I was the default babysitter everywhere. I've even carried a stranger's baby on my lap in a 45 minutes flight. However, in the US, I've been warned to not try and talk to children or be overly friendly to kids by all my friends. Who know how fond of kids I am. Bit of a cultural shock, really. Till, as a child of the 80s, that this is now a weird foreigner thing, instead of just how friendly neighbors interact. Guess that's part of kids not being allowed to play outdoors alone or otherwise be out of parents' sight in these times. Now I'm fully feeling old. In the throes of nostalgia for how, back in my day. This is actually not stupid and a really good question. She was just being friendly. I have a 2-year-old's walk in a wagon almost daily, and just like your wife we say hi and be neighborly. I wouldn't be creeped out over this. I wouldn't let my baby go in alone either, but I wouldn't be creeped out.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epic Ericast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.